Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 5th chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak, and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. The Gospel of the Lord. So when was the last time that you felt particularly blessed? If you're like me, your time of feeling blessed was probably a time that you were feeling good and happy, where somebody had done something tremendous in your life. You probably felt that your cup was literally running over. You probably did not feel blessed at those times in your life where you were sad, where you felt empty, where you felt like the whole world was just dumping on you and it was never going to stop. So, if you had been one of Jesus' first disciples, and he had been saying these words in the Gospel reading to you today, and started out by saying things like, Blessed are you who are poor in spirit, and in Matthew's version, poor in wallet. Blessed are you who mourn. Blessed are you who are persecuted, who the world dumps on. You should have stopped Jesus right there and said, What? What do you mean, blessed am I when I feel? I don't feel blessed when I feel like that. What is this all about? Because if you were paying careful attention, Jesus does not say, Take heart, those of you who are poor in spirit, for you're about to be blessed once you're filled up. Or, hang in there, those of you who are sorrowful or mourning, you're about to be blessed once you're happy again. Instead, Jesus actually says that if you're poor and sorrowful and persecuted and empty and picked on, you are blessed right now. That condition you have is actually a blessed condition. So how could that possibly be? What is Jesus talking about? So in the attempt to figure out what Jesus was talking about over the centuries, sometimes Christians have interpreted these Beatitudes, these blessings, to mean, well, you know what? God really thinks that if you're going to be a Christian, you should be a masochist. You should enjoy being picked on and persecuted and poor and beat up. And there are sometimes people who think that I'm not doing this Christian thing right unless I'm miserable. And unless somehow I'm being picked on and persecuted, like I'm supposed to be happy about that. Thing is, if that were the correct interpretation, why would Jesus then say, hey, it's not going to last? Eventually, you're not going to be poor and mourning and persecuted and picked on. That's probably not what Jesus meant. So sometimes people have interpreted these words and said, well, you know what? Maybe it's kind of a way of what we would call today paying it forward. You know, if I just suffer enough now, eventually I'm going to build up great rewards and treasures. Except the thing is that that doesn't always happen. Sometimes I suffer a lot, and in the end, I just kind of suffered a lot. And Jesus doesn't use any transactional language here. He doesn't say, blessed are you if you're willing to be persecuted, because then and only then will you inherit the kingdom of God. Those who are persecuted inherit the kingdom of God. He doesn't say other people won't. So there's no transactional thing here, and that's probably not the right answer either. So a lot of people have just looked on this and said, you know, the Beatitudes, well, they're kind of like the Mother Teresa of the Bible. this person, this ideal that we look at. Wow, that's really great. I could never do that. But I mean, that's the way Jesus is lifting up for the really special, serious saints of God. Except that here, Jesus is talking to the crowds. He's talking to everybody. He's not just talking to the saintly disciples. So maybe Jesus is actually serious about this stuff. You're blessed when you're poor, when you're empty, when you're picked on, when you're persecuted, when the world is dumping on you. How could that possibly be? So I wonder, like that character from Princess Bride used to say, you keep using this word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. We keep using the word blessed. Does it really mean what we think it means? See, when I think about blessed and whether I'm blessed, I think about all the good stuff that's supposed to happen to me. And it's supposed to be about me. But what if that's not what blessed means? Maybe instead of something good that happens to me, blessed is simply an indicative way that Jesus says God is going to bless that condition. God is going to bless your poorness, your ability to endure persecution, the way that you're being picked on. God can actually use that. In fact, maybe God needs that. Maybe God needs you sometimes to be poor and empty and picked on and persecuted and hungering and thirsting after righteousness. Me, I would much rather say, you know what, God, if you make me strong and smart and rich, I can do all of these things because I'll have all these talents, I'll have this money, I'll have this opportunity, and I will have the endurance to be able to go and do the things you need me to do. But what if God needs my emptiness? What if God needs my hungering and thirsting after righteousness? What if God needs my desire for peace that just doesn't seem to ever be fulfilled in order for me to be in a place where God can actually work in me and with me and through me to make a positive and redeeming influence on the life of the world? So then I started to think about All Saints' Day. And in your bulletin, you've got an insert, because it is Bulletin Insert Sunday. You've got an insert that's 3 pages long of all of the saints that we're going to name and remember in today's service. And those are not the famous saints. They're not the rich saints. They're not the powerful people. They're all the people you put there. They're the people whose names that you wanted to remember. People who were lights in your life. People who showed you God's love. And I don't know all those people. I know a few of them. But I suspect that you put them there not because they were rich and famous and powerful and happy, although they may have been some of those things some of the time. But a lot of those people that appear on that list, they were the people who were willing to sacrifice for you. They were often people who were your parents, your grandparents. The folks, because a lot of you are parents and grandparents yourselves, you know that these were people who were willing to be poor in wallet and in spirit and in energy and in time so that you could become the person you are. God did not need people who said, look at me, I'm strong and I'm brave and I'm all this kind of stuff. He needed people who were willing to be empty and to be empty for the sake of somebody else. They were saints in your lives because God worked through sometimes their tiredness, their emptiness, in order to bring about something good for you. That's what made them blessed. Not that it was good for them, but God blessed that condition to do something good for somebody else. Some of those people that are on that list are also probably people who were the folks who walked with us in our lives, strengthened us, talked to us when we were not being our most lovable, enjoyable, pleasant selves. They were the people who tried to talk sense into us when we would not listen, who put up with us when we were being irritable, who stood by us even even when we were not being very nice to them. It was not fun for them. It was not enjoyable for them. They probably felt persecuted and wondered whether they were wasting all their time. So you've probably done that for other people too. God needs people like that. People who are willing to stand with us, help us, put up with us at those moments that we would just as soon walk away. That's what makes them saints. Because they were willing even to be picked on and dumped on a little bit by us in order to be people through whom God could work through, to help us out and to give us strength. That's what made them saints. And some of these people really are folks who stood in the gap with us when we or other people were being actually persecuted, discriminated against, picked on. At those moments where they were not sure whether standing in the gap was going to do any good or not. You know, it's one thing to stand on the sidelines and root for the winning team. It's another to actually stand up for somebody when you think you're just going to share in their persecution. If you stand and say, no, I'm not going to let this person be picked on or persecuted or discriminated against. That was not a happy experience for any of those people. If you've done it, you know it's not a happy experience. It's not something where you go, wow, I feel so good about this. But God needs people who so hunger and thirst for righteousness and peace that they're willing to do that. And people in those kinds of situations are blessed, not because they feel great about that, but because they are in a unique place to be God's instruments in the life of the world. So today, as we remember the saints, and as we consider our own call to be saints in the life of the world around us, it's important for us to remember that God's blessing in our life is not just giving us good stuff. Rather, God's blessing is God's promise to always work in us and with us and through us. And sometimes it's going to feel good because God is going to take your strength and your talent and your money and all the things that you have, and you're going to feel great about it. But sometimes what God needs from you and from me is our emptiness and our poverty and our willingness to hunger and thirst for a kind of righteousness and peace that just does not seem possible in this world, in order for us to be the kind of people that can actually make a positive difference. And I think it will take a lot for me to sit back at night and say, thank you, God, for making me poor and oppressed and picked on and persecuted today. I didn't like that a whole lot. But you know, finally the promise of God is that all of these conditions and all of our lives are blessed. Because God's there, working with us, making us the light through whom God's love can actually be experienced in the world around us.